You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Cabral House Call. I'm Stephen Cabral, board-certified naturopathic doctor, and today on our second house call of the weekend, I am looking forward to getting into your questions. This pretty much wraps up the last questions we've gotten over the past 2 weeks, and some of them are going to tie into yesterday's show. So if you didn't listen to yesterday's Cabral House Call, I certainly recommend doing that because our first question, let's get right into them, is from Reagan. Reagan is asking, or Reagan, what all-in-one powder do you recommend? Because I talk about that a lot. I never really talk about brands. But just go to dailysupportshake.com. It's just dailysupportshake.com, and you'll see exactly what I recommend. You'll see how it stacks up against other products. You'll see it's about, for around $1.50 to $2 a day, you get about $12 or so worth of supplements. So you save about $10 per day, about $200 to $300 per month. So it's overall a great deal, and so you can see exactly what I recommend, and then compare it to what you might be doing as well, and see if it's the right fit for you. And again, I go into this in detail yesterday, so I'm not going to go over that today. Okay, second part is about peanut butter. So Reagan asks, is peanut butter good or bad for you? So I typically never recommend peanut butter. There are a few reasons for that. For the most part, most of them are overprocessed. They add sugar to them, and the peanut itself is usually a nut that is higher in what's called aflatoxins, essentially mold-based toxins, really a big allergy for a lot of people, not for anaphylactic reasons, but really from a food sensitivity perspective. But again, as a peanut itself too, it's a legume and not really a nut, and that means it's more acidic than raw nuts, meaning like peanuts are more acidic, just like cashews are, rather than almonds are. So hopefully that answers your question. I simply don't recommend peanut butter to people. I think it's too easy to overeat peanut butter, meaning like if you do have peanut butter, you should maybe have 1 tablespoon. But I don't know many people who only have 1 tablespoon. They have a tendency to go far overboard. But if it's something that you love and you're just having it once a week and you're in good health, your blood profiles look good, then I don't see an issue with it having once a week as a treat, meaning like it's something that you really enjoy. Just look for an all-natural one and one that has no added sugar and preferably organic. So hopefully that answers that question. And I believe there's a third part to that. Any suggestions for dealing with a hormone imbalance? And I believe we took care of that before, and we did. But let me just reiterate, because maybe you didn't hear that previous show on Reagan's question, is that when you're looking at a hormone imbalance, and so we're looking at female hormone imbalances right now, and almost 100% of the time, you're looking at estrogen dominance. So what you're looking at in this scenario is the body's typical lack of progesterone and not necessarily too high in estrogen. A lot of women think they're too high in estrogen. However, they are only from a relative standpoint, meaning that their progesterone levels are low, and because of that, it cannot balance out estrogen because progesterone and estrogen must be in balance. So what does that mean? Well, it means running a saliva-based test during days, well, about 6 days, 5, 6 days, 7 days at max before you get your period. And what that means is you're going to look at peak progesterone during that time, around day 22 of your cycle if you are ovulating on a 28-day cycle. This will let you know your ratio. This will let you know if you are too low on progesterone, and that could be why you are struggling with hormone imbalance and all the symptoms that go along with that, whether it be mood-based, acne-based, digestive-based, a lot of other issues going on there. So hopefully that answers your question, and I'm happy to do a follow-up on that too. It's just a much more detailed subject than our house call we're going to take on today. Okay, so our next question is actually a supplement review question that came in, and I apologize that I do not have your name, but this question is, what is your take on Atrantil for SIBO? Other than using L-Glutamine, how should you cure a leaky gut? Okay, again, this is another like big episode that I will talk about in the future because obviously I need at least 10 minutes. Usually I give seminars on that, and those seminars are typically 60 to 90 minutes long. But let's go for it today. Let's look at that. Okay, I had never heard of Atrantil before, or it's pronounced Atrantil. And so, the thing is this. I work with SIBO every single day in my Boston practice. And what I do is I use an organic acid test. I look specifically for yeast or bacterial overgrowth or both. I see how well the body's detoxifying. I look at the levels that it is, and then I decide on how strong the protocol needs to be. Because sometimes using beneficial small intestinal only based strains of probiotics with Saccharomyces boulardii will do wonders. But there are those other people who have large amounts of bacterial overgrowth that need a lot more help. This product, in one product, I've never seen one product work before in my life for really strong cases of SIBO. I wouldn't want to discredit this product. It gets mediocre reviews on Amazon, and when I look at its product and actually see the ingredients, I'm seeing a peppermint extract that's simply to calm the bowels, that does nothing to get rid of bacteria. It contains something else called Cabral extract, and what that does is it tries to create what's called like an unfriendly environment. It means it changes the pH and hydrogen levels in that environment. That's certainly helpful. There's no doubt about that. And then there's something called this conker tree extract, which stops methane production. So, I like to get deeper to the root cause, to be honest with you. I like to see why the terrain is hospitable in the first place for allowing bacteria to grow. I want to see why it's hospitable for also allowing yeast to grow, if that's part of the issue as well. And then I like to use a protocol that uses biofilm disruptors to make sure I remove anything covering this bacteria in the first place, because we have to get at it. And then the second part is I want to make sure that I use an herbal formula, something that typically contains oregano oil, because we know for sure that works fantastically well. Of course, I'll use other things as well. I might use berberine. I don't like to use just a few of these, because unless you get tested for what works on your specific bacteria by doing stool-based testing, which I think is just completely unnecessary, you can use systematic-based formulas. And then, of course, I do like to use something like Saccharomyces boulardii if it's right for you, and typically it is. And then I start with adding back in then small intestinal-based strains. All you have to do is go to stevencabral.com/store, and you can click on my 3-month, because it's 12 weeks. You can certainly put a big dent in SIBO after about 3 or 4 weeks, and you're going to start to feel tremendously better, especially if you're following a nutrition plan that does not feed this type of bacteria. But really need a 12-week protocol to make sure everything's gone, and then also repopulating the gut. That is at stevencabral.com/store. You can simply see what I use in my own practice. The store was built not only to give you access to what we do in my Boston practice, but also to allow you to just get the education on what works. Because again, we are referral-based in Boston. We are booked out for 6 to 8 weeks. And I only say that to share that what we do is simply word of mouth, and it's working. And I'm fortunate enough to be able to learn these things and then pass it on to others. That's it. And so what else? Good. The second part of your question is dead on. Very smart. Is asking then, what do you do to sail up the gut? Well, you're correct that L-Glutamine is a great product, and zinc carnosine is another one, and there are different products that do combine those, which I can get into as well in the future. But those two products are better than anything else, L-Glutamine and zinc carnosine, at really sealing up that gut wall after. But remember, save your money. Use that after you start to remove the bacteria over that 8 to 12 week process. And next question's a good one. It says in episodes 185 to 218, you make it clear that you are against dairy, and if we want to have milk, make sure it is from grass-fed cows. Correct. And then it goes on to say, is full-fat yogurt or full-fat kefir from grass-fed cows any better than milk from grass-fed cows, or should all dairy simply be avoided? And then this person goes on to say that they have some full-fat yogurt, and they're just wondering about that. So let me share that with you. Well, I'm certainly against all dairy, without a doubt. There's no doubt about that. I don't believe that any human should be drinking cow's milk. Now, keep in mind, this is this is something that I've worked on over the years, meaning like I've been leaning towards that for maybe 10 years. And then 5 years ago, I'm really like, this is really not a great idea. It's really not helping people. But, we've just been so ingrained in the media and everything to believe a lot of the research. And now I just do so much lab testing over the last 5 years that I can't recommend cow's milk for anyone. So it's true. Now, this question, though, was already answered on episode 218. So it's Allison's question, is grass-fed or cultured milk really any better? So please do check out that episode on 218. And I know that you referred to it, but it was answered in that show. Let me just answer it again for you quickly as well. So is grass-fed better than regular milk? Absolutely, because there's none of the antibiotics that's typically done. It's not fed soy, it's not fed corn, and it's not fed a lot of things that cause inflammation in the cow. So it has a better omega-3 to omega-6 profile. There's typically less stress on the cow. So yeah, it's absolutely better. And then if you want to go one more level, it's much better to have a yogurt or let's say a kefir than it is a actual glass of milk or cheese. And again, you should really test this. I mean, you should do a food sensitivity test, and it's so easy now. All you do is literally you can order a lab and you can just get your finger poked, you mail it back into the lab, and then you get all of the results. It's pretty amazing. So let me just go one step further with this. And that's if you are going to drink milk, and again, I have kind of moved away from it. I very, very rarely, meaning like less than 1 out of 30, we'll say, are actually sensitive to goat's milk. So if you do a goat's milk kefir, like I did recommend when I talked about yogurt versus kefir, which was in episode 217, so please check that out. Yogurt versus kefir, you're much better off drinking kefir because the probiotics do typically stick unless you have yeast-based issues, and then of course you're not. That's why there is no one thing for everyone. So I just want to give you the information. But have it from goat's milk or from cow's milk. So if you're doing a yogurt, have it be from goat's milk or cow's milk. You're going to get much less inflammation. You're going to get much less disease-based issues out of it, and you're going to have better absorption of the protein as well. So hopefully that answers that question. And then the last question coming in today is, and this is from Keith, are you the same in person as you are on the podcast? So I didn't add this as one of the regular ones. This is just kind of like a bonus question today. I've gotten a bunch of personal questions. I'm going to start answering more of the personal questions rather than, all the health ones as well. I'm just going to add them on. So, people say, do you talk the same way? Do you act the same way? Or are you just different when you're holding a microphone or, on camera? And I think if you meet with me and you meet with me in my Boston practice, or you see me at an event, or I'm speaking or whatever it is, and you come up afterwards, I'm the same exact person. Literally, how I am talking on a microphone is how I am when I'm having a regular conversation with someone. And, sometimes people say it's high energy or it's more intense, but it really depends more on the topic that we're talking about. So meaning like, am I the same person? Well, I'm pretty relaxed and, chill for the most part when I'm in person. But if you get me talking about health, if you get me talking about, the crimes that they're committing with food right now and with pharmaceuticals and getting people hooked on bad food and then having to use prescription drugs to get their way out of it and just making them sicker, and then they have to go on another drug to combat this particular drug, I'm going to be a little bit more energetic and intense, I guess, with my words. So hopefully that answers that question. And I'm pretty much the same everywhere I go. It's just easier that way, right? If I don't have to pretend to be anybody else, I never have to change. I never have to pretend that I'm stepping on stage or whatever it might be. I want to thank you all once again for tuning into another great week of the Cabral Concept. I love recording these shows for you. And really, every week I get more and more feedback about how the shows really do seem to be helping you. And again, this is for you. So if you could please let me know how I can help in the future, what topics you would like me to speak on, what you would like to hear about. It's my pleasure to do that. So please just go to stevencabral.com/ask Cabral and just give me tips on what you would like to hear. If it's a quick question, I'm going to answer it on the house calls on the weekend. And if it's a larger topic, I will spend a 10-minute show reviewing that. Thanks again, everyone, and I hope you had a great weekend.
Did you know that the body really only becomes sick or imbalanced in only 2 ways? Over time, you become deficient in vital nutrients, and you also accumulate toxins internally and from the environment. As those nutrients diminish and you increase your total toxic load, your body then begins to show the first signs of dis-ease. It's actually quite predictable, and the good news is that if we know how you began to fill up that proverbial rain barrel, we also know how to empty it to begin the healing process. I was fortunate enough to learn this ancient healing process from my mentor after suffering from debilitating diseases for close to a decade. It was only when I began to implement these techniques did I finally overcome my illnesses and go on to live a life of energy and vitality that I now enjoy. I'd like to share with you now what I discovered after traveling all over the world and how to combine the best of ancient healing wisdom with state-of-the-art science. Allow me to teach you exactly how I've been able to help over 250,000 people to empty their rain barrel and begin to transform their body and lives into what they've always hoped they could be. To get your copy of the international bestseller, The Rain Barrel Effect, simply go to stephencabral.com/rainbarrel.